What's going on, family? Welcome back to another week of Unscripted and another episode of Unscripted. I'm gonna just go ahead and clap it up, right? Because hey, no week is promised and we're here, right? It's another week. We gotta clap it up. We gotta celebrate the small victories. You know what I'm saying? But before we get into this week's episode and I introduce my special guest for this week, we gotta uncover some things. And we're doing something a little different on the podcast moving forward. So the other day, an idea came to mind. I was going for a walk. Usually on Sundays, I usually go for a walk to get my steps in, but just to really enjoy outside and hopefully my mind starts working and some things start to transpire. And on this particular day, it did. As I was walking, I was looking and searching for something that I could include you, the listeners. I don't always get a chance to answer certain questions, and I want this podcast to be more of a family atmosphere. If you're tuning in and you're supporting the podcast, look, I appreciate you family, because I'm very cognizant of the fact that people don't have to listen to you. People don't have to tune in to see what you have to say. But I truly appreciate the ones that do. And for our new listeners coming in, join the family. You know what I'm saying? Join the family. Go ahead and subscribe and join the family. But I wanted this to be something that we could always converse on, discussions that we could bring up and discussions that we could talk about. This segment is truly about you guys. It's about the listeners. It's about having open dialect and open conversation about anything. This segment is going to be called Bring It to the Table. And we're going to start it today and we're going to apply it for all the episodes moving forward. What is bringing it to the table? Well, it's a discussion topic that you may have in mind. Maybe you want to hear briefly about what's going on with the Brooklyn Nets. Maybe you want to hear about some things that's going on in your life, because I truly believe that sometimes when somebody shares something with us, another person's perspective can help us maybe find the answer. So Bring It to the Table is just all about anything that you want to talk about, anything that you would like me to touch on, any question, whatever it is. And maybe I'll even have some of my guests answer some of these questions that you may have. So let's get into week one of Bringing It to the Table. So I put something up on Instagram in the stories and I got back some replies. So we are going to address those today. I'm probably not going to say who is asking or who answered the question, because I don't want to put anybody on the spot in case I don't want certain things out there. So let's just bring it to the table, right? Table. But before I answer these questions, these are my opinions. These are my perspective based on my walk of life. So your perspective may be different from mine. It's all good, and we're going to rock with it nonetheless. Question one: how do you find and cultivate a godly romantic relationship? We just bring in that fire to the table like that. I think that's an interesting and great question. I think we all want someone, especially if we have our own personal connection with God. We all want someone who aligns with us at the end of the day. And so I think it's very important to ask yourself, what are some things that you aren't willing to compromise when it comes to you, your relationship, and your walk with Christ, right? You have to know when you are trying to do things a specific way, that there are things that you can't compromise on. And you also have to ask yourself, the things that I'm looking for, am I those things? Like, am I the person who is getting into the word? Am I the person who is consistent? Am I the person who puts in effort? Am I the person who knows what my love language is? Do I know their love languages? So I think a lot of things honestly stems from ourselves, and everything that you want to see and aspire to have, I think it's good to ask yourself, am I showcasing those same qualities? I know for me, my lady and I, we were in a space before we actually got together, being completely transparent, where I wasn't looking to be in a relationship. I wasn't looking for any of that. However, the more that we hung out and the more that we got to know each other, we were kind of aligned in so many different ways. And one of the ways that we were aligned was in our walk with Christ. And so once we got to that alignment, it just felt right. Among many other things, it just felt right. And it felt like together we were moving in the same direction. But I know that I had to be the things for myself and she had to be the things for herself. And she had to align herself with her walk with Christ. And I aligned myself with my walk of Christ, which we were doing before we even met. So when we got together, it wasn't much friction in that category. It was kind of smooth. And we sat down and said, you know what, this is where we're going in this part in our lives. We have to be able to make sure that this stays at the center of our lives. And so I hope that helps. Basically, I'm saying that, before you search and seek for these things, honestly, I wouldn't try to force it, but I would make sure that I am aligned with the same intangible things that I may be possibly looking for. I hope that helps. Question 2, who wins between Canelo and Yildirim? Yildirim. Look, I'm not going to struggle with my man's last name. But I think Canelo. I think Canelo is on a different level right now. The showcase that he had against Callum, man, that was a masterpiece. Like the way Canelo was moving, the shape that he was in. To me right now, he's the best in the business, and it's hard to see that he won't continue the same dominance. So I think he wins this weekend against Yildirim. I don't know what round. I don't know if it's going to be a knockout. I don't know, but I definitely think that Canelo wins. Question 3, self-hatred, verbal abuse. How do you heal and move on from that? Wow. I think it's very hard in life sometimes to talk about our pain, because when we talk about our pain, we kind of relive those same moments, right? So I think in those type of situations, you have to kind of go back to that moment, go back to the past, because the only way to heal from the past is to address how you felt about it, how it made you feel, why it's still bothering you, get to the core root of it, right? The only way to kind of get to the healing stages of life is to rip the Band-Aid open and just to watch and to see and to feel what you feel. You can't ignore what you feel, because then you suppress it, and whatever you suppress, it doesn't go away. It's going to come back at some point and during stages of your life. So I think the first step to any healing is to address where the pain is coming from and why you feel that type of pain. Because if you can understand why you feel that pain and why you feel that way, then you can finally start to get to the root of it. And once you get to the root, then you can figure out some small things that'll help you get there. I think everybody's healing stages is a little different. Let me give you a quick example. When I was homeless, the hardest thing for me from that moment mentally was to remind myself that I was worthy of success, that I was worthy of good things in my life. Because at that moment, I was just like, man, nothing good is going to happen. Like, maybe I deserve this, right? All these thoughts come to your mind. And so in order for me to not be stuck in that situation moving forward, I had to self-talk myself out of that pain, right? And so sometimes I got to a time in my life where I never asked for help, right? Because I felt like whenever I asked for help or thought that I could ask for help at that moment, that people would just let me down. And that was just a coping mechanism, right? So maybe that's another thing, is to find out what are some of the coping mechanisms that you have within yourself, because chances are it's probably based on the root of a trauma that you didn't heal from. And so that's what I would say to heal, man. I think the first thing, how to start the healing process and to move past it, is to definitely make sure that you address it and know what is the core reason and why it's causing you to feel that way. Because if you can uncover why, then you can, kind of figure out where to go from there. I hope that helps. I can get into that a little bit in a different video, maybe. Last question I want to bring it to the table: self-awareness and self-love. I think these two both go hand in hand, right? Because if you don't have these two, then people are going to take advantage of you. I think it's very important to know your worth. I'm not saying that you think that you're better than everybody. That's not what I'm saying. But I think it's very important to know how you want to be treated, how you want to feel, how you want people to talk to you, right? Because my grandmother used to tell me, and I'll never forget it, she used to say, son, if someone does not take the time to get to know you, then why do you care what they say, right? And I think what she was saying to that in many different ways was just, look, you have to know yourself, right? You have to know your ins and outs, right? You have to know what things annoy you, what things brings you joy, what type of relationship that you want to cultivate, what does healthy look like. And a lot of times we accept the love that we think we deserve based on how we treat ourselves and how well we know ourselves, right? So I think when a person becomes self-aware when a person becomes self-aware of how they want to be treated, then they can truly start the process of loving themselves, right? Because all that comes from within, right? Like you show people how to treat you. You show people how to love you. You show people how to talk and to respect you. But if you don't do the work within, if you don't start within, then they're not going to treat you like that, and you may accept something that you don't deserve. So it's very important that you spend time getting to know you, right? Once a person knows who they are, they don't just accept anything just to have something. I hope that helped in some capacity. So, man, I like that. Did you like that? I like that. Man, please keep the questions coming. That was our new segment, Bringing It to the Table. I gotta clap it up for myself because we just finished part 1, a new segment, man. That's exciting stuff. But seriously, thank you guys for asking the questions. And if you have something that you would like to bring to the table, whatever topic that it is, then you can definitely DM me on Instagram or email us at unscriptedpod1@gmail.com. One last thing before we get into this week's episode of the podcast. If you have been enjoying the podcast, if you have been enjoying the motivational videos that I post, then I truly hope that you would do us a huge favor and join us on Patreon. We have big things for the podcast this year and moving forward, and we need your help to get there. As I said before, the podcast, if you have been listening and have joined Unscripted Podcast, subscribe in any form, you're part of the family. And this family, we want to elevate and continue to share inspiring content, one conversation at a time, one video at a time. So if you would like to support the podcast, support the motivational content that I create for you, then please head on over to our Patreon, which will be in the links below if you're watching this on YouTube. It'll be in the comments. If you're listening to this in podcast form, then it'll be in the show notes as well. But head down there and click the Patreon and check out some of the things that we are offering in different tiers. Some of the things in the tiers that we're offering, in our first tier, we're offering a shout out. If you want to get a shout out on the podcast, and trust me, this is an Akeem Haynes shout out. It's a little different. It's more heartfelt. Then you will get that. Or if you want to give someone else a shout out on your behalf, then we can definitely make that happen too. You will also get access to exclusive behind the scenes video content, early access to the audio form and the visual form. And in these tiers, I will also give private access to my new motivational album, Defy the Odds Volume 2. Look, I do this for you. And without you guys, trust me, there would be no podcast, right? So I appreciate you. And I hope that you continue to support the podcast. We truly appreciate it if you supported the Patreon so we can continue to create inspiring, transformational, informational content just for you. So with that being said, let's get on to this week's episode of Unscripted. My guest this week is my guy and my former roommate in 2017 in the World Championships in England, Justyn Knight. Justyn is one of Canada's top athletes and rising stars in the world. Specializing in distance from 1,500 meters to 10K, he's versatile in all categories and had success at all stages. Unknown and unranked in 2014, Justyn stepped on the track for Syracuse and made his presence felt immediately. Throughout his time in Syracuse, he went on to win a few NCAA titles, ACC championships, and many more accolades. In 2017, Justyn made his first senior team when he represented Canada at the World Championships in London, England, and he finished 9th. Since then, he's made his name felt on the world stage and a threat to win every time he steps on the track. In this episode, we discuss his upbringing, his time at Syracuse, finding his footing as a professional athlete, how he stayed positive during a pandemic, and why he signed with Rebook and what it meant to him. We also discuss the mentality that it takes to be an elite athlete, And we also discuss what it truly means to have a support system that is there for you no matter what comes your way. This is an episode that I know that you'll truly enjoy. So without further ado, enjoy episode 49 of Unscripted with Justyn Knight. Jay.
Hey, what's up, brother?
What's up, man? You can hear me okay?
I can hear you. Do you need me to get headphones or am I good the way
Oh,
I am?
nah, bro. You're good, man. You got a nice little chair set up over there.
Yeah, this is my gaming chair. Everybody makes fun of me for it.
Where you at right now, man? Are you in Syracuse or are you back home?
I'm actually in Charlottesville, Virginia. So,
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So my coach at Syracuse, once I was done there, he retired, and then
Get out of here.
took a job with Rebook, and we moved to Charlottesville. So, yeah.
Bro, man, I'm glad that you could jump on, man. I know we tried to do this like 2 times before.
I know that was my fault the first time. The first time was my fault.
Bro,
bad.
It's all good, man. But before we start, man, I wanna get your thoughts on last year, right? Obviously, coronavirus has been very impactful in many different ways. But talk to me a little bit about how it has shifted. Obviously, your training, that was an Olympic year,
Yeah.
but how did you mentally adjust to it, man?
Yeah, COVID was really tough. I mean, I've never in my life, especially being on my own and everything, like I didn't have my parents around me, just have to be responsible for, everything through a pandemic. And it was really tough. It was a lot of growing up that I had to do. And there's so much uncertainty. I think like with it all, it's just like, are we overreacting? Are we underreacting? And the way I kind of conducted myself is like, just go based off of worst case scenario. So like, if it's not that bad and you overreacted, then whatever. But if you underreact, then that's something you can never bounce back from. So, for me, it was hard. There's a lot of things that I had to do. I actually, I separated myself from like practicing with my team that entire, I think from March through October. Actually, I didn't see any of my teammates. I just worked out by myself. But that was just kind of to guarantee my safety and the safety of the people that live around me. And it was very difficult. I'm not gonna lie.
Man, I think that's part of what most athletes or most people don't hear from athletes is the mental side of it.
Yeah.
You talk about going to a place that you've been going to for so many times on the track. You see the same people, you see the same coach, and all these different things, and then it gets taken away from you, man. What were some thoughts that you were having on those tough days, man? Like how do you handle uncertainty?
I mean, I think the one thing in my mind is the goal of just being an Olympian, being like you. And I was fortunate enough to be roommates with you back at World Champs back in 2017, and I think just not just making the Olympics, but actually like making an impact. And I knew for myself that if the Olympics didn't happen this year, that it was probably going to happen next year. And I took it upon myself to make sure I got better at least, or tried as best as I could. And every day, like, it was hard. There's so many times I hate practicing alone. I practice awful alone. Like, even before World Champs back in 2017, I remember the last workout I did by myself, and like, it was awful. You wouldn't even think that someone that is capable of making a team would do such a bad workout, but it was just because I'm just bad at practicing by myself. And I took that time to just, work on being able to practice by myself, being able to be the guy that's responsible for paces and everything. And luckily I learned a lot from that. And just keeping those goals in my head, just those life goals, and keeping myself accountable is just kind of what helped me strive and move forward, because I had to just take it day by day, just to be honest.
Man, you're my favorite roommate, bro, of all time. I'm gonna tell you why.
Oh, that's sick.
I'm gonna tell you why, because sprinters, they have no routine. They don't go to bed at a specific time. They don't do none of that. But I was like, man, with you, we went to bed at a nice time.
Yeah, 10 o'clock.
We watched the same shows. We had some good conversations. But I also knew, man, that in your mannerisms, like one of the practices that you were talking about, I remember you coming back to the room and you just looked like a little defeated. I was like, man, what's going on? And you said something to me that as I mentor other athletes, down the road, you said, I just want to get better. You know what I'm
Mm,
saying? And that's something that always
yeah,
stuck. That's something that always stuck with me because
yeah,
I don't, and I think that there is no such thing as a perfect race, but we can always get better in different things.
exactly.
But man, here's where I want to start, man, because I don't think people know the backstory of Justyn Knight, man, because I understand that you grew up in a predominantly a basketball household,
Yes,
right?
sir.
Your dad was a basketball coach, if I'm correct in that. Uh,
Hmm.
what was that like, man? Because isn't basketball your favorite sport?
Basketball till this day is my favorite sport of all time, Akeem. And it's so funny because when I was a kid, when I was home, I was looking at this picture. I love Michael Jordan to death, and growing up, that's like how me and my dad bonded through basketball, and he taught me about Michael Jordan. I had his jersey and I had his shorts. And in this picture, like I remember wearing it because I never took this jersey and the shorts off. Like I was always in my Michael Jordan outfit. I'd sleep in it, I'd go out in it, I'd go to dinner in it. And basketball was always my true love. And having my dad as a coach, that was really nice. And a lot of people um, don't have like that close of a relationship with their father, or have like someone. Both my parents are super supportive, but just to have him, wanting to teach me and to be better in basketball was very special. Sometimes though, I'm not gonna lie, when your dad's your coach and you're young, you take things a little bit personal and you're like, come on, why are you being so hard on me? But I really enjoyed that whole part of my life.
How did you get into track then?
So that's a funny story, and I think I told you, but I'll tell this story again. But I was a multi-sport athlete back in high school. I did basketball and volleyball, and I was pretty good at both of them. I was like the sixth man in basketball. Volleyball, I was the starter, and I remember I went to St. Mike's, which is a sports school in Toronto.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, actually, it's a private sports school and a Catholic school, so pretty good school. And I remember in gym class I had like a 68, which is mind-boggling, right? you know, and there's certain subjects where I was like, come on, it's bio, like telling my parents, but like gym class there's no way I could bring that back.
Yeah.
So I remember having a discussion with my gym teacher, and I was just like, what's going on? Like, why is my mark so low? Like I'm doing well in the basketball unit. I'm like the quarterback in football unit. The only thing I wasn't good at was skating when we had to play hockey. And I remember him telling me, he's like, well, the way I give marks out is not based off of how good you are at a sport, but based off of your effort. So he's saying, like, you can throw all these touchdown passes or you can score all these points, but when I see your mannerism or like the way you're moving, like I can tell you're not really trying, you're just joking around with your friends. And I was pretty heated. I was upset because it's my gym mark you're playing with. But
100%.
Yeah, right. And I asked him, I was just like, okay, so like, what can I do? Because I cannot bring this mark back to my parents. And he said, you know what, there's one unit left in gym class. And if you show me that you're giving your best effort, then, your mark will reflect it. And funny enough, the last unit was running. It was a 5K. And every day I made sure that I was at the front of the class, like giving my best effort. Just we'd run like 5K and then come back to the school or something like that. And then in grade 10, they had like an annual 5K for the actual students in gym class. And I ran it and I broke the school record.
Wow.
And from there, like, it's funny, my future track coach at St. Mike's, he was a gym teacher too. And like, they'd always like make bets with each other, like, oh, who's going to win? Whose class is going to have the fastest kid? And obviously, since I broke the school record, like Mr. Bergen, who was my coach, was just like, there's no way that kid's lying. Isn't like Owen in his class and he got fourth at OFSA? And he's like, no, he's not lying. Like I was beside him on the bike the whole time. He ran that. And, later on, they convinced my parents to put me on the track team for whatever was left in the season. It was barely anything. And then from there, I continued running.
It's funny, man. It's interesting because when you told me about the 68, automatically I'm thinking, first of all, your teacher's a hater. This is really what it comes down with. But growing up in a basketball household, man, and then making that transition to track, and especially being as close knit with your family, obviously as a parent, they're gonna support you. They're gonna push you in the direction that they think you want to go in. But what was that discussion like? Because your dad got to step away from knowing is coaching you in this sport to letting somebody else doing that. And I know from a parent perspective, that can be a little bit of, that can be hard because you maybe don't understand. What was that conversation like? What was like, could you see a future for yourself in track?
I wouldn't right away. I didn't see a future in it. I thought honestly, there's a certain point in school where you're just like, how many days of class can I miss? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I think there's two perspectives. Like both my parents were very supportive. My dad, on one hand, he didn't have a problem with it because at that point in my career, even like with basketball, I was starting to be coached by other parents, I guess you could say, or other coaches. I played AAU for Northern Kings. It's a pretty reputable AAU team. And in my school, obviously, I had a coach at school. So, like, I was kind of getting used to having a different coach other than my father at that point. My mom, she was supportive, but I'm not going to lie. Like, she didn't want me to run track at that point in time in my life because she's just like, he's missed so many days of school through basketball and volleyball. And she's just like, are you kidding me? Like, how is he going to, like, get good grades if he's always missing school? And, they did a good job of convincing her. And she, like, it's not that she didn't want me to run track. She was just concerned about my grades because
Caribbean
after
parents,
high school
man.
comes university, right? So.
Caribbean parents.
Yeah, man. My mom, Jamaican, they don't play around.
Man, and you honestly come from a great family, man. I've met your mom and your dad many times, and your brother.
She's a big fan of yours, by the way.
Oh,
from
man.
Day one, she's always been asking about you. Yeah, because when she found out I was rooming with you, she's like, wait, Akeem Haynes? I know him. So she's been a big fan.
I'm honored, man. But your parents are so gentle. You can tell that the love that they have inside of them is extremely genuine and coming from a place of, I just want to see my son and my kids happy. But your mom had those doubts. What was it like when you started to put the recruiting papers on the table, when you open up the envelope and it says, look, I can possibly get a full ride here? What was going through your mind at that time? What was it like just to know that, hey, I may have something here?
It was crazy. I remember, actually, this kind of brings me to a different point. I remember in basketball, for me, this is why the transition actually wasn't so hard for track, because I went from, at a certain age, like, 10, 11, 12, 13, where I was the man in basketball. At least, like, I'm not even joking, like, within the GTA.
What was your best season, man? Tell us some of the stats. Tell us some of the stats, man.
Yeah, I know, like, there's probably be a couple of my friends that are going to say that's cap, but I don't know. Like, when I was a kid, I could easily get, like, 20 points per game and, like, maybe, like, 5 assists or something like that, right? And I was always a hustler. Like, you can even ask my my high school coach on defense. Like, I wasn't playing around. Like, they put me out there for defense. I could run up and down the floor. That's why, like, when he sees me doing well in track, he's like, yeah, I knew you had such good stamina because you would just keep running up and down the court.
Yeah.
But, when I transitioned kind of to high school, I went from being the man, like, in basketball and scoring all these points and assists and being, like, the starter, to all of a sudden I go to high school and there's a lot of kids that are better than me. And I felt like I didn't have, like, a place in the world at some point in time. Like, it's really weird thinking of it right now when, I have my life kind of figured out for the most part. But, like, at that point in my life, being like a grade 9, grade 10 student, I just felt lost. I felt like, I didn't have anything for myself. I wasn't good at anything. And I remember having a conversation with my mom. This kind of goes way back to when I was a younger kid, when I was scoring like 20 points per game. And I wasn't cocky, but, like, if I scored on you, like, you know how it is. Like, you're going to let them know. You
got to let them know. Just subtle, something real quick, just to let you know that, like, there's a lot of game left.
Yeah. And my mom saw some of that, and she was just like, she pulled me aside after the game, and she's like, Justyn, you got to be a little bit more humble because, God gave you this talent, but he can easily take it away.
Wow.
And I was like, no, I'm good. Like, I'll put more time in the gym, yada, yada, yada. You know, I was a kid, you know, I kind of took it seriously, but at the same time, I was like, no, I'm just going to work hard. And I felt like with track, it was kind of like God giving me a second chance, like just being like, not that I deserve to, like, you know, not do well in basketball, but I felt like it was a second chance for me to be something and also do it in a graceful, very humble way. And that always stuck with me. Like with track, I always try to do it gracefully and humbly. And back to your point, like when I was getting all those letters, I just felt like, you know, not that I was worth something, but I felt good to like feel wanted and feel valued by like an institution and everything. And I remember I used to get called to the principal's office like every day in, I think it was grade 11. It was either grade 11 or grade 12. I think it was grade 12, but I used to get called to the principal's office every day. And they'd be like, oh, you got a letter from Ohio State. Oh, you got a letter from Oklahoma State. Oh, you got a letter from Oregon, blah, blah, blah. And it was really cool. Like a lot of my classmates, they were just saying like, wow, those are big schools, because they know it through like other NCAA sports. But, you know, when my mom saw that, she was very happy for me. And my dad was very happy as well. But I kind of kept them like really heavily involved in the recruiting process, because I knew that they would pick up on things that I wasn't necessarily going to pick up on. Sorry, I have a...
Oh, no worries.
I'm okay. I just finished like practice and everything, so I just got to make sure I have my water with me. But yeah, the whole recruiting process was good too, where, you know, when you go to these American schools, I got recruited in Canada too, and I actually took it serious. But then there's a point in time where I had to make a decision, like Canada or NCAA, and I decided to go with NCAA, obviously. And with a lot of these NCAA schools, like you look at their facilities, and my God, man, like they look like professional facilities, like stuff that you'd see the Toronto Raptors practice in or something. And as a young kid that wasn't really exposed to anything like that, like that's all I had to see. But my parents, like they were asking the tough questions about like academics, you know, training staff, you know, injury history and all that good stuff. So it was really good process for me to have them heavily involved like that.
Man, I went to some, I saw some high schools in America that looked like colleges, right? I was like, wait a minute, you guys have tennis courts, you guys have basketball courts, you guys have a track, you know,
Yeah.
the community
Courts.
track.
That's the key word with the S, courts.
I was like, yo, how? I was like, that is why they're able to be successful and have a lot more rates of people, you know, being successful in sports, because we don't necessarily have all that funding here.
Yeah.
But before we make the transition from high school to Syracuse, man, I want to talk about why you picked Syracuse, but also, man, I think it's very important. And I think it's a theme in your life. And I think it's a lot of people, especially who are people of color. You have been able to have both your mom and your dad in the same household. So you are able to see different perspectives, but make it work collectively, man.
Yeah.
What are some of the things that you saw in your parents that you can take with you? You know what I'm saying? Because you look at all these statistics and all these different things, and, you know, Black households are often separated and are not held together. But you saw something, man, and even when you talk about it, bro, I can see it in your face. It's like, wow, like I'm grateful to have that. What was that like growing up for you? Not even from a sport aspect of things, but just having something to mirror and be able to take with you when you start your own family.
You know, it's nice. And whenever, I think it took me to leave home, or actually, I wouldn't even say that, but like, you really realize how much your parents do for you when you're not living with them. And I always appreciated my parents, and like, they've been my day ones, and like, I've been super respectful to them. But like, once I got out of the household and I lived on my own, and I started stuff that I would do on a daily, where I'd be like, Mom, can you? And she's not there. Or Dad, can you? And they're not there. And then I started realizing like, wow, this is like the stuff that they did for me without saying a word, without complaining. And I think like the one thing that stuck with me like the whole time with my parents, even before I got to college, is just sacrifices. The sacrifices that they made for me and my brother just to be the people we are today. And it's not even about track and field and stuff. They provided us with so many opportunities. And you know, by no means is my family like rich or anything, but they always made sure that we had the necessities to be successful. They made sure that, you know, if the kids wanted to go to the camp was literally called 5-star basketball camp, where like Carmelo Anthony went there and stuff, but we wanted to go as kids because we had a dream of making the NBA. And if their kids wanted to do that, they made sacrifices and they didn't spend money on this and that to make sure that we had an opportunity to even going to St. Mike's. Like, it was a private school. We weren't on scholarship. We weren't on bursary. And it was like a lot of money a year. And, you know, they made it happen. They sacrificed. They made sure that we were going to get an education so that we could have a better chance of going to university. And to me, like, I look at my life now and I don't have any kids. You know, I don't have any kids or anything, but everything that I do right now is just so that when I have a family one day, that they can start where I left off. Like, all the work that my parents did for me and the sacrifices that they did for me to make sure that I had a great life, I want my kids to leave off or to start. I want my kids to start in my family, you know, my wife and everything in the future. I don't have anybody right now.
It's on the way. It's in the works. It's in the works.
It's on the way. It's in the works, maybe. But I want them to start off where I left off. And that's where it comes with like being smart with money, with prioritizing certain things, even when I work hard, you know what I mean? Like when I'm at track practice and I feel like, oh man, like I can't give it much more. I know that I got to give it more because I want to be relied on, or not relied on, but like I want to be able to, you know, provide anything that is desired. So that's just the one thing that I got from my parents, is just that, you know, if there's a will, there's a way. And sometimes you get much more joy seeing your kids be successful than, you know, your own success. So that's always stuck with me.
Man, I've always said that, you know, it's one thing to talk, right? But it's another thing to back up what you say. And I'm sure your parents have said, you know, we want you to go after whatever you want and to do all these different things, but they follow through. And we often don't see what they do for us because we're so caught up in our own life and what we're trying to do. And it's often the small things that we take for granted that we don't often see. But man, when you went to Syracuse, man, talk to me a little bit about that transition from high school to now we're competing against literally the best in the country and every field is stacked, man. But for me, man, when I transferred from Barton Community College and went to Alabama, man, my GPA fell from a 3.1 to a 1.8 because I wasn't used to how much time we were leaving to go compete. And I wasn't used to go into a classroom where there was 300 kids. I'm like, yo, this teacher doesn't care about me. I'm like, yo, I don't have to be here. And so I kind of struggled to get back into it. But how was your transition like with more kids? It's a bigger school, man. Syracuse has so much history in so many different ways, man. What was that process like for you? And how did you handle running at a higher level and knowing that every person, for the most part, around you is just as quick, if not a little bit faster?
You know, my freshman year was difficult. I'm not even gonna lie. And it was for many different reasons. Like, for one, the biggest thing that I had difficulty with as a freshman was that, you know, my team, we didn't really, the good guys on the team, we didn't really drink during season. Like, we had a dry season. Yeah. And it was hard. Like, I was a freshman. A lot of my friends were redshirting, and I love those guys to death. Like, some of them are still my best friends to this day. But they were fooling around a lot. and like living with them, like I was trying to compete. I'm not trying to, like, I wasn't redshirting. Like, I was actually competing, but like I had guys walking in my room at 3:00 in the morning, and it was just a lot for me. And like, I couldn't deal with that. And I felt bad because everybody else was making friends, and like I was making friends too, but I felt like I was kind of losing some of them because I'd be telling them like, hey, yo, I'm not going to come out tonight because this, and everybody else is going out, but they can, once people ask you a question like so many times, and they kind of stop wanting to ask you that question. And I felt like I wasn't like making friends because I lived with all the freshmen and all like these people partying, but then I practiced with all these guys that were serious. So like when I was at practice, I felt like a part of the team, but then when I went back to my dorm, I felt like I didn't really have anybody. And that was really hard for me. I had a couple of people. Obviously my parents were in my corner, but I had some good people around me at Syracuse Athletics that kind of helped me deal with that. And actually my second semester, I moved out of the dorms and I moved in with some sophomores on like a on-campus housing. So that's how we kind of fixed that problem in this second semester. But in terms of like athletics and everything, I'm not going to lie, I was kind of naive about the whole thing because for me, I was so new to running that I didn't know anybody. And distance runners, like we're mad skinny. I'm not that dorky looking, like I'm a handsome guy, but like a lot of these guys just look dorky. Yeah. And I know they're my friends, so I can talk some trash about them. But so I look at these kids and I'm just like, this kid's not faster than me. And I don't know who they are, but like just based off of looking at them, I was just
something like, inside just says, "Oh, this guy can't step on the track with me."
Yeah, I'd be damned if I lost to this guy.
Yeah.
And I did a lot of losing, but I did a lot of. I won a little bit towards like the track season, but I didn't lose to anyone that was like really bad. And I think like that mentality, me not knowing who people were and just thinking like, hey, I can compete with this guy. It made me a lot better because I was going in with an expectation and trying to win every race, where I felt like some of the American kids that knew the history of who this person is at this school and that person and what they did in high school, they would get on the line and be scared because they're like, oh my God, this guy's a legend. But for me, I didn't know who anybody was. I was just like, all right, let's race. And hopefully I beat you, but maybe I won't. So I think that's the one thing that I benefited from. From an academic standpoint, school was really hard for me. I'm not going to lie. I think a lot of it was kind of my doing. I think I'm more of a procrastinator. I'm a good student, but like, man, sometimes I would just procrastinate. But it took me a while because when I was in high school, I had my parents to be like, come on, you have your assignment, it's due. And like the teachers were like really supporting me. Whereas like you said, you're in a class with like 300 people and the teacher's just like, hand it in. If not, you're going to get a 0. And it took me a little while to adjust to that. But Syracuse, I'm not going to lie, like they had such a great program surrounding like the student athletes, where I had a tutor that like literally walked through my entire day. We planned out every single hour, how much time I'm going to spend on studying, what homework's due on which date, and like when we're going to do it and stuff. So like they did a lot of stuff to kind of keep me on track. Not to say that I was a 4.0 student, but like it could have been a lot worse if I didn't have them.
Man, I know a lot of I went to school with I was in class with a bunch of the NFL guys. Guys like Landon Collins was in one of my classes. TJ Yildirim was in one of my classes. Landon Collins, Landon, if you're listening to this, if you owe me a pencil, bro, you owe me a pencil. But I remember sometimes those guys would say, like they would wait until the class checkers came and then they would leave, right?
Yo, I'm telling you, I'd see the same thing.
Because you have to develop discipline. You know what I'm saying? And you have to develop in all these different things. And you do have a team to keep you there and to keep you on track with your schedule. But at the end of the day, like you still got to do it. As your years went and your career kind of grew, man, I was looking at the stats the other day, man, you got a bunch of titles underneath your name, right? When you were going into a race, man, how did you lock in? What were some things that you did to lock in? Because sometimes, man, in a high pressure situation, people take themselves out of it before the race even started, right? So how did you stay locked in? Because now, as the years went on, you aren't just Justyn Knight anymore. You are, this guy is going. This guy, I got to watch out for this guy, right?
Yeah.
How did you keep your composure?
You know what? That's a tricky one, because exactly how you saw, I was no longer like, oh, this freshman kid that like, oh man, he's outperforming some of these seniors.
That didn't last long.
No, it didn't last long. It didn't. Where now people have expectations from me, and like, I know a lot of people say this, the coaches say this, but like, you really do get better in practice. So everything I gave, like, to me, where the pressure was lying was in practice. Like those days that I felt like I couldn't give anymore, that's the time when I felt the most pressure. And I'd work hard. Leading up to the race, like, I had confidence in myself because of practice. And I did my due diligence before the race too. Like, I'm not going to lie. A lot of people don't admit this, but like, I would look up who I'm racing, like, beforehand. I would look up their stats, like what they ran this year or what their PRs are, depending. I wouldn't do it with the whole field, but if I knew who to look out for, I'd like maybe watch a race video or two of like, how does this guy run? Does he run from the front? Wow. Does he like to sit and kick? And I kind of prepare myself. You can only do so much preparing because no race, as you said earlier, goes perfectly. But I did my due diligence with these guys. And I would do it like maybe a week in advance. And then leading up to the race, like when I was on the bus traveling, I'm the type of person that I don't like sitting and worrying and thinking about the race like maybe 3 days out. Like, that's the only thing I'm thinking about. Like, I'm not the type of person that wants to be distracted or like doing the most and forgetting the whole reason why he's there. But I don't want to be the person that's thinking about like, oh my gosh, what if I don't do this 3 days before the race? So, I think like traveling with a team was great because we'd have fun together. We'd have good conversations. Sometimes the guys would even bring like their video games, and like we keep it calm. Like, we just enjoy each other's company. And before the race, honestly, I'm a man of God. I believe in my faith. I say a prayer and everything, and then I just lock in and make sure I do what I'm supposed to do. And that's honestly kind of how I just go about it. I don't know if that's the answer you're looking for, but that's how I do it.
Well, everybody's method is different, man. And I always like to ask athletes that specifically, and you and I have had this conversation before, but you got to find what works for you. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Like in a pressure situation, I've always find that at a high level, the people who do well are the people who do what they've been doing. They don't come in and try to do something that they don't know. They just kind of do the same things. Was there a race at the collegiate level that you remember the most, that stuck out for you, that kind of made you say, you know what, like, I belong here and I'm going to be here for a while? Was there a race that was like that for you?
Let me see. I'm trying to think what race it was. I think my freshman year on the track, I won ACCs with one shoe.
That was going to be my next question.
Oh man, sorry. Okay.
No. Walk us through that one, man.
Oh, so man, it was surreal because like, I mean, AC's conference meets, as you know, like being at Alabama, SEC, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Massive.
Sometimes they take conference meets more serious than actual like NCAAs.
100%.
Which is weird. But just leading up to the conference meet, I was racing the 1500, and like that wasn't my main event, but I've been begging the coach that like, hey, I have speed. Let me run the 1500. Let me run the mile. And he let me run it. And I knew that I had something to prove because I didn't want to, get last place or fifth place and him to be like, oh, well, you're running the 10K next year. So
yeah,
I was kind of running just to keep that, the speed in my legs and keep that hope alive. And we had a very talented group. I'm not going to lie. The ACC was pretty stacked in the 15. And I was running the race. It was going pretty well. And then all of a sudden, someone stepped on the back of my shoe. And it was half on, half off. And I think that was like maybe a lap in. And I was running with the shoe like half on, half off. And then it got to a point where there was one lap left. And I was just like, I can't do this anymore. Like, I just got to lose it because it's making me slower. So I kicked off the shoe. And it's funny, one of my teammates' moms, her name's Midge Malone, she actually got a photo of me kicking off my shoe mid-race. And it like made it on Bleacher Report and like all these other cool websites and stuff like that. And from that point, I was running and I had so much adrenaline and I took the lead. And then all of a sudden, like, you know, you don't have the grip that you usually have on that foot. It was just my sock that was sliding. And at this point, there's like 50 meters left. And like, I just lost the grip. Like, it just felt like one leg just was completely sliding.
Yeah.
And I literally won the race by, I think, like 0.3 seconds because the guys were catching up with me and I just leaned and just like out-leaned them. It was really cool and everything, but that was a big moment for me.
Man, what did your foot feel like after? Like, did you?
Surprisingly, my foot was fine.
Huh.
Yeah, Florida State must have a good track because my foot was fine. Yeah,
that's so funny, man. Because when I was researching and watching the things, I was like, wait a minute. You know how hard that has to be? But then do you know how embarrassed it must make other people in that race feel?
Oh my God.
You know what I'm saying? Like people are
Yeah.
gonna remember that, right? But I think that honestly, that says a lot about a person's heart, right? You literally, man, I've seen sprinters pull up whether they were hurt, whether they were not,
Yeah.
because of the ego and the pride, right?
Yeah.
But I think that says a lot about your grit and your tenacity to
Thank
literally finish what you started. You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
I really think in a race like the 5K, man, you got to have something. You got to have something inside of you that shows that you can, you know, do more. Were there some people that you looked up to, man?
Oh man, I have a bunch of heroes and it's crazy. So Mo Ahmed, obviously I gotta say he's been my hero because
shout out to Mo, he's a good dude.
Yeah, Mo's the man. Honestly, on the track, off the track, you know, shout out to his brother Ibrahim too. I'm really good friends with him. You know, those guys, I feel like they're kind of like extended family to me. Like whenever I have a problem or need advice, like Mo always picks up the call like first ring. He never like leaves me waiting or says he's too busy for me. And you know, I love those guys. Both him and his brother are great people to me. Brandon McBride, actually, that's my guy. And actually, I sent him a picture. I'll send it to you after. But Brandon, like, I was a huge fan of Brandon from when I was in high school, and he didn't even know me, but like, he was a legend.
Bro, that guy. So, man, sorry to interrupt, man. I'm out west, right? Everybody's from Toronto. I'm out west in Calgary. So like, I remember every time that like OFSA would be on, my coach would have the OFSA live results on. So I would be competing in Calgary and he would be telling me what these guys ran.
Yeah.
And I remember like, obviously, you know, I was looking at the sprinter stuff and all that, but then I saw this other kid who would run the 8 and then come back down in the 4 and drop a time. I'm like, yo, who is this Brandon McBride cat? And I was like, yo, this guy is a freak of nature, man.
He was not playing around. And he, like, to this day, like, he was that dude in high school, which you don't see this happen very often, but he was running some serious times in high school, ran serious times in college, and then is continuously running some serious times as a pro. Like, you don't usually see that happen that often. You know what I mean? But Brandon, like, yeah, I met him at Penn Relays. Like, I saw him, it was after his race, and like, I went there as a high schooler, and I literally saw him and contemplated asking him for a picture for 10 minutes. It was probably so awkward because you could see me standing there, and I was just like, should I ask him? But I don't want to interrupt him, whatever. And like, I got this picture with Brandon. He's so nice, and like, nowadays, you know, Brandon's my boy. Like, we're tight. He's another guy that's like an older brother to me. Like, the same way that you used to talk to me in 2017 and like I come to you for advice and stuff, Brandon has been that guy for me throughout meeting him from, you know, college and onwards. Like, he's just been amazing. Other guys that I looked up to, I really looked up to Matt Hughes, another Toronto guy that made it in the distance events. Cam Levins, of course. He was, man, that guy was an animal. But like, and I remember meeting him for the first time and like sitting with him and his parents at a banquet, and like I was shivering because I was just like, I can't believe I'm sitting beside Cam Levins. And also like the one person that I think I told you, but like I met Mo Farah.
Yep.
Back in 2017, and like that guy, and he's another special guy. Honestly, he embraced me from like day one that I met him after the semifinal. I was surprised. Like he has a lot of respect for me, and like for him to like tell me stuff like that, like I was, even as like a collegiate athlete, like I was just like, oh my God, like it was almost like me meeting Michael Jordan as a basketball player. And you know, Mo is a great guy. Throughout college, honestly, he kind of helped me win my first NCAA title, in the sense where he was giving me advice on like how to take yourself to that next level and stuff. And like he'd get on the phone with me and like make time for me and everything. And you know, Mo, I don't talk to him as often as I'd like to. I actually haven't talked to him in a while, but he's another person that whenever I ask him for some time, for some advice, that he always picks up the phone. And you know, I got love for Mo. He's a great guy as well.
Man, for those listening, if just to put into context, if Usain Bolt is the king of sprinting, Mo Farah is the same thing when it comes to distance.
It's the dawn, man.
Man, you know, it's funny hearing you mention those names, and as excited as you are to mention those names and to talk about those names, man, that's always been you. I have never heard you say one negative thing about a person. It's always been a place of reverence and respect, because I think at that moment you take yourself out of being competition with them and just be a fan of the sport. 2017, man, you make your world championship appearance. You know, we become roommates, obviously, but you know, I had been there a couple times before. God has opened up some doors for me, and you know, He's allowed me to be and to see some different things. You know, being able to be at 2 Olympic Games and 3 World Championships and some other things, but it was your first one, and I could see your excitement. I could see that you were there to see what you could do, but I could tell that this was one that you said, you know what, I just needed the experience. And whether you knew it or not, this is what I felt. I could be completely wrong, but I knew that you were there to be like, you know what, I need to see how this feels so that I can take it from it. And then I will be able to take this experience and going from it, man. But talk to me a little bit about that time, because now you're competing against the best in the world. Some of those Mo Farah competing against Mo.
When I saw that he was in my heat, I was like, is this real life? Mo Farah is in my heat. I'm used to racing against like, you know, King Ches, Edward Cheserek and stuff. Not to say that there's, you know, he was the man and he's still the man, but like Mo Farah, I was seeing some of the names on the list and I'm like, man, am I about to get last place in this race? Like, oh my gosh. But you know, I think you hit the nose on the head. I think that's the same. Anyways,
hey, man, I think it sounds good.
I'm having a moment, but I think you hit it correctly. And I thought I took it as an experience where I'm not in my prime right now, but I'm here. So like when I come back to a world championship, or I come hopefully to the next Olympic Games, I already know what it's like to, you know, spend my time in the hotels, like eat the food that's provided here, you know, running in new places, what it's like to do the training camp in Spain before actually going to your destination. So to me, that was good. And I remember like, I'm not going to, because to me, I'm a very competitive person. And I used to have it in my bio on Twitter, but it's a rap lyric from Wale. And this one always stuck with me because I felt like that's the way I truly feel. And the lyric is, I hate to lose more than they love to win. That's the difference between me and them. And that being said, like I knew when I was going to world championships that I'm not going to win, but I carried myself in the same way where I was just like, I'm going to do everything in my power to try to win. And I remember, it's funny, we kind of joke about it now, like me and my coaches. But I remember in the semifinal, like my coaches from Syracuse, who are still my coaches now, they came to London to watch me.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, and you know, they were very supportive and everything, and you know, we were out there on mission and writing my workouts and stuff. But they actually they booked their flight to go home after the semifinal, or like it was booked so that they can go home after the semifinal.
Yeah.
And I just remember, like, I got fourth in that race, and I think you need top 5 in the next 2 fastest times to advance. But in the video, like, I'm running and I'm coming up on Mo Farah, and like my coaches were going insane because I only lost to like the first place by like maybe half a second. So like we were all side by side together, and that was a big moment for me. But people asked me like, yo, Justyn, like, did you know you had that? And I was just like, well, I knew I wanted to make it to the final. Like I wanted to get, I don't know, at this point in my life, I was saying like I want to get like top 5 or something like that. Yeah. Completely unrealistic, but like, this is the one thing about me, Akeem, where I tell kids this all the time. You gotta set unrealistic goals for yourself, or what I call unrealistic goals for yourself, because nothing in life is perfect. And specifically for track, like, there's not a perfect race. There's either going to be a rain, it's going to be windy, it's going to be this, it's going to be that. You might cramp up. Yeah. And if you train for that unrealistic goal, that gives you room for error to accomplish what's actually realistic for you to accomplish. So if you're training as, you know, to run, I'm just going to use the distance because I don't want to yell out speed. That don't make sense. But if you're training to run like, you know, 13 minutes and 20 seconds in the 5K, like that's the time that you need to hit. Like, but that's unrealistic for you. You know, maybe you get to that race, you're training for 13:20 and you end up running 13:23. But realistically, you knew that you were like a 13:25 or 26 guy, but you still improved. So for me, like, when people ask me like, how did you like summon that energy to like, you know, do what you did in the semifinal? I was like, well, I knew I had to make it to the final to achieve the goal I set out for myself. So like, there was no other way than to get top 5 in that race. So that's just something I just had to figure out how to do it. And I think the other thing about that race, so I'm kind of stretching out the question that you asked me, but I think that I did have a slight advantage in the semifinal because I looked at the competitors that I was competing against, and everybody was really nervous. Like, I saw like these high world-class athletes with, you know, maybe not world records, but like meet records and Diamond Leagues, this, Diamond League that. And I could see them like being very jittery because they had all this expectation. Like, they had the Olympic Committee watching them. They have all these fans that have these expectations of them. And then here I am as a collegiate athlete from Canada, nonetheless, where nobody even knows who I am. So I'm just in the like call room and I'm just like, wow, this is cool. Can't wait to race. Where everybody else is just like they're really jittery, like, because, you know, even contracts too, they don't want to get reduced either. So I think that kind of played an advantage to me, where I like kept my nerves down and like just focused on racing rather than like all the other stuff that kind of comes with, you know, being the best in the world or something like that.
Man, it's funny because you just said that. It just reminded me of your freshman year when you came into college, because nobody knew your name. Nobody really knew. But then you come back on the professional level, and it's kind of that similar feel, you know. And you were able to do what you're able to do, but it's like starting something new all over again, right? And it's been a couple of years since then, man. But I want to talk about this before we get into the last little 5 questions, man. I want to talk about Rebook, bro, because when I saw that, man, you know, I was genuinely happy for you because I knew the work that you put in to get there, but I also knew the person. I'm a person where I have a hard time separating, like, if I know you're a jerk, I have a hard time separating that from, but I know that you're a good, genuine dude.
But thank you.
what did that feel like, man? Because, man, look, I had a pair of Reebok Kamikazes back in the day.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So, but what was that process like? Because, there's the Nike, there's the
Yeah.
Adidas, all these other companies, man. Why Reebok? And what did that feel like, man? Not from like, from your parents' perspective or your friends, but
Yeah.
like for you, man. Because that's a big deal, bro.
Yeah. For me, it was surreal, that whole kind of, I guess I'll call it recruiting process, because where I finished in the NCAA, I had like a lot of attention on myself, where, I was an NCAA champion, but then also like, I wasn't a dorky running kid. Like I had 20,000 followers on Instagram, like, and I was verified, you know what I mean? Like,
Hey, you could dress, bro. Come on,
and
man. Don't be modest. You could
oh
dress. Your boy
man,
can dress.
thank you. Hey, I fell off a little bit, but it's all coming back 2021. I promise. But yeah, it was just weird. Like I had all this attention and everybody wanted me. Like, as you said, like Nike, Adidas, I know Under Armour were interested in other people, Reebok, and it was a lot to handle, because in the moment you love meeting everybody, and every single person that I met, I loved them. And in a perfect world, I would have said yes to everyone. Yeah. But in real life, like you can only pick one. And it's also different now too, because it's not like NCAA where you're dealing with no scholarship, half scholarship, or full scholarship. You're talking about your well-being and your career and your life, and like, actual money that you will have to pay taxes on, right? And like support your family and everything. And it was just a lot to deal with in that sense, because it was just so new to me. And there was just so many things that I just had to keep in mind. And once again, I had my parents heavily involved in the process, alongside I had an agent too, but like my parents were heavily involved in it as well. And it was great. I mean, signing with Reebok, the reason why I chose them is because, what they showed me at the time, like it was very in line with my vision for myself and how I wanted to grow in the company that I want to represent and everything. And it was surreal just signing the contract and like getting to keep my coaches and, them forming a club around me and stuff like that, and have all those responsibilities. And I really enjoyed it. I really did.
It's a big step, man, because, I think every person, whether it's a dream or not, you always, especially as an athlete, you always say, you know what, one day I want to have, my own shoe, or I want somebody to sponsor me like that, man. And it's just a testament, of how God is using you, man. It's not many people can be able to say that they were sponsored by a shoe company, but you'll be able to say that for the rest of your lives. And
I know.
And when you do have kids and they say, no, you weren't, you'll be able to show them, like, look, what are you talking about?
This is the 9/11.
But man, I want to get into these last questions, man. It's just,
right.
five easy questions that I usually ask. Number one, man, if you were trapped on an island for a week and you could only bring three things, what would those three things be?
Damn. See, I know the question's not supposed to be hard. I know it's not supposed to be hard, but here I am thinking, like, is there food on the island? Like, if I bring my own food, like.
Oh man, you just pretend. You remember seeing Castaway?
No.
Castaway, Tom Hanks, man, he gets trapped on an island. He doesn't have anything, and he makes a best friend with a tennis ball. So he had to like fend.
Oh my gosh.
A volleyball, not a tennis ball, sorry. But
okay.
He has to fish his own, he has to cook his own, he has to clean it. Pretend you have nothing on this island. You have animals, but you got to hunt it yourself, and you got to survive for a week.
All right, so definitely I'm gonna bring some food. Just like, nothing like lobster or steak or whatever,
snacks.
but like some stuff that I can survive on. I'm definitely gonna bring the most expensive camping tent ever, because me and those snakes and those little bugs and stuff, I can't do any of that. There's no way. So that's that. And then the third thing, you know, I'm gonna cheat on this and make my third thing 2 things. I'm gonna bring a basketball and a net.
Fair enough, man.
Just so I don't go crazy on the island, I can work on my jumper.
Number 2, man, what's your favorite movie?
My favorite movie, honestly, I have a lot of favorite movies, but I really love Like Mike. Like that one. I mean, it's not like the best produced film or anything, but like when I think about my childhood and like where I was at in life and how happy I was, and you know, I watched that movie the other day with my mom, and like I was smiling ear to ear the whole time because it just brought nothing but happiness. Like I just remember where I was at in life. You know, I was a kid and stuff, but like it just has so much good memories. The soundtrack I loved. I loved Bow Wow back in the day. Like I used to want to be him. But I like that movie. I think that one always stays close to my heart. But it's not like the best movie I've ever seen in my life, just to make one thing clear.
There's a lot of, question 3, there's a lot of, you know, I think what makes sport great is obviously the competitive nature, but man, I love a good trash talk, man. I love when people come at me. I love going back and forth, man.
Yeah.
What was one of your best trash talking moments, or what was something that somebody said to you that you were just like, wait a minute, did he just say that?
Okay, okay. I can answer both. I'll start off with what somebody said to me, and you might know this kid. He's my age. He's a really good sprinter. His name's Cameron Nurse.
Mm-hmm.
You know Cam Nurse? I'm not sure.
I think if I see a picture.
Yeah, he was really good back in my day, and I think he specialized. He either specialized in the 200 or the 400. I think it was the 400. And at OFSA, I was running the 4x4 for my team. Now, and this is in my grade 12 year, I had no intentions on running the 4x4, but our number 1 guy, I think like pulled his hamstring and stuff, and he was like a 48, 49, 400 meter runner. And I had to replace him. And I already ran the 3K and the 1500 that day. Jeez. And it was like right before the 400. But I still dropped like a 51. So I was okay. But I remember I got the baton. I think I got the baton in second, right? And I think I believe I was the 3rd leg. I might have been the 2nd leg. I'm not sure. But either way, I didn't start and I didn't finish. And leading up to the race, or like me getting the baton, the kid Cameron, who I knew him well because we used to play basketball against each other when we were kids. So like he played for Mississauga Monarchs and I played for like St. David's or Vaughan Panthers. But then he's kind of strayed into track way before I got there, and he was known for sprinting. And you know, I knew him as a guy, like we were friends, and he was talking like a lot of trash, and he was saying like, oh, Justyn, you're going to get this baton before I do, but trust me, I'm going to walk you down. And he's like talking. And I was just like, yeah, keep talking, bud, whatever. And so I get the baton and I'm running. I'm like, okay, he's not going to catch me. All of a sudden, I hear this guy, like, it was almost like a pit bull was chasing me. He's like, I'm coming for you, Justyn. He literally said that mid-race. Yeah. I'm coming for you, Justyn. And then he sprinted past me, and I mean, his team ended up winning OFSA. We got 2nd, but I don't think that was the sole reason why we lost. But that was just a funny moment that I don't even know if he remembers that story, but like that always stuck with me. It was really funny. What did I say to somebody? Worst trash talking moment. See, I haven't trash talked anybody in track and field, at least. I think in basketball, I remember one time I hit this buzzer beater over this guy, and I was going off. This was in high school, and I think I had like 15 points that game, or 17 points, which was a big deal for me. And I hit a buzzer beater 3 over this kid, and his coach was losing it. And I looked at like the guy as I was jogging backwards after I hit the 3, and I just gave him like the gunshots and like did the 3 to the head, but man, I didn't actually say anything to him.
Yeah, you hit him. You hit him with the mellow at the end, man.
Yeah. Little did I know I was gonna end up at Syracuse. So
Question 4, man. If you were a coach, NBA coach, man, for a season, what would your starting 5 look like if salary cap wasn't an issue, man? Your starting 5.
Wow. This is fun.
Anybody you want, past or
fun.
present.
All right. Oh, past or present.
Anybody you want, past or present.
Oh my God. See, now you made it tricky. All right.
Let's start at the point guard, man. Who's your point?
I know that's where I'm starting. Honestly, I know people are gonna get on me for this, but I want Steph Curry as my point guard because I only need one. I need a shooter on the wing. Or at point guard. But like, okay, we're gonna do Steph Curry. I was gonna say Allen Iverson. I'm probably obligated to say it because we're but
y'all are family.
I love AI. Like that's another guy that I want to be like, but for the team that I'm building, I need Steph Curry because he plays a certain role because he's going to be my 3-point specialist. Next up, I got Michael Jordan, no doubt. LeBron James. Then, okay, where are we going with this? 4 and 5. I have Kobe Bryant. Take LeBron out. He'll be back. So I have Steph Curry at my point guard. Steph Curry is my point guard. Michael Jordan is my shooting guard. Kobe Bryant, shooting forward. LeBron James as my power forward. And then I have Shaquille O'Neal as my center.
Man,
that's my team.
That's a high caliber team. That's probably going to score about 150 a game because Kobe going to take his.
Yep, he's not passing. Shaq's going to get the rebound.
Last question, man. You've to this day you've been able to accomplish some great things on the track, off the track. If there was one word to describe you, man, what would that one word be and why?
Man, on the track and off the track. Man, see, this is a question I should ask you, but I think like somewhere between. Give me 2 seconds. I know you can edit this, right? So it doesn't look like I'm taking. Too much time. I don't know. Part of me just wants, like, when I think of a word that I try to instill in myself, I think of just humble and grace, where I can apply that in any, place in my life where being humble doesn't mean that you're the best at everything. It just means that you can understand someone else's situation and understand your situation. And like, I don't know. I just feel like maybe humble's not the right one. I do think I'm humble though.
Oh, absolutely.
Selfless? I don't know. Maybe selfless? Dang, I might have to go on like look up some synonyms or something like that. Damn, you saved the hardest. I thought these were gonna be easy questions.
I know, man. No, man. I would definitely say humble is spot on, but I also said that you're very confident as well too, right? And
yes.
I think people sometimes misunderstand that just because you're humble doesn't mean that you're not going to give somebody the work. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly, man.
I think it just means that, I've prepared enough and I have enough faith and trust in what I do that I don't have to make a big deal of it because I felt like I've been a champion already. So, man,
exactly.
I think humble is spot on, man.
I think so. You can edit all the garbage out and just say that I said humble. And I feel like, yeah, exactly what you said, where people confuse confident with cocky, and like usually cocky people don't live up to what they're talking about, but they gotta always let you know what they're doing. And for me, like, I'm gonna work hard, but at the same time, like, I'm the type of person where I like to let, at least in athletically, I like to let my running do the talking. Like, I'm not going to sit here and tell you about, oh man, this is what I'm going to do to you, blah, blah, blah. It's just like, no, I'm chill. How's your season been going? Or how's your training been going? No, it's pretty good. I had a really good workout today.
Yeah.
And, we'll see what happens in the race. So that's just kind of the way I try to approach things. And, as I can say, like the same thing for you. And like, I remember just in 2017, we had like a lot of good chats. And like, I remember telling my mom, it's like, man, Akeem, that's a good guy right there. Like for the amount of times he's went to the Olympics, world champs, and like the person he is, like, he's just so graceful. Like you would have never thought that, he has all these accomplishments. And like, from then on, you actually showed me how a professional is supposed to handle themselves.
Wow.
And no, seriously, because I mean, I had little accomplishments here and there, but then like here I was getting ready to go to the next stage and try to become the person that you've already been. And a lot of people, they kind of get lost in that, where like they start getting attention and they start acting a different way. But you showed me that like you can have all these accomplishments, but you can be the same person. You can handle yourself with grace, and your life will still turn out well. So thank you for that. I appreciate that,
bro. That means a lot, man. I've always just said, man, I want to be a person of character, right? Because at the end of the day, when you're a person who is just solely in sport and your whole identity is in sport, sport has an expiration date, right?
Yeah.
But who you are, you get to take that with you wherever that you go. And that doesn't just stop when you're in sport, right? So I've always wanted to be the same person, whether I was in sport, whether I wasn't doing it, so I want to be a whole human. And so, man, accolades are cool, it's one thing, but what good is it if you're an Olympic gold medalist, but you're a terrible person? I'm not gonna want to hang out with you. but man, where can people keep in touch with you, man? Where can people, follow you and just check up on you, man? Because I think, man, I've been around some great athletes, man, and I think sometimes when you're a great athlete, it doesn't mean that you're a good person, right?
Yeah.
You're solid, man.
I appreciate that.
You're a person that people should want to cheer for. It's hard not to cheer for you. Where can people follow you, man?
I appreciate it. Honestly, after this, and I appreciate you guys having me on here, because I watched a couple of your stuff before, and I see your Instagram videos, like the inspirational videos that you post, and I'm like, man, Akeem's preaching this morning. Thank you for that. Like seriously, there's sometimes I wake up and I see your videos and I'm like,